Now, folks, you got Dak Prescott here, and I think it's the beginning of the end for him, and I'm going to explain why. I mean, of course, we all know what's happened over the weekend with the 49ers and the Cowboys. Dak Prescott has had a good career with them, but it's not working out. He doesn't have many playoff wins, hasn't really done much other than just get numbers. So, what happened? What happened? They've got this guy in there now. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch kind of just washed their hands of the situation. And they're like, they owned up to what happened. They fucked up that trade. They gave up 3 high picks. They didn't really end up with nothing that they were looking for. They end up with a fourth round pick as they send Trey Lance to the Cowboys. Now, here's the thing. Kyle Shanahan's kind of a quarterback guru. And you see, Jerry Jones, he sees something in Trey Lance. There's that little Al Davis coming out in him that's still there meddling in his mind. And I don't think Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott are good. I think Jones is fed up with him. I think he's running on a short time with him, and I think he's ready to pull the plug on him. And I think he's just like, think about it. What kind of situation is this with Dak Prescott? Does it resemble something to you? In a way, he got hurt. It resembles a lot. And the funny thing is, Trey Lance has also had similar injuries to his leg and stuff, just like Prescott. But Dak Prescott has a very similar kind of career right now. It's running like kind of side by side with another quarterback. As you see, Trey Lance has been hurt before. There's another quarterback I could think of that's had a very similar career, and then what happened to him. As you see, Dak Prescott's had his injuries, and he's lost time, and he lost that one, season. But this is the guy right here. Derek Carr has a very similar career to Dak Prescott. Spent a long time with the Raiders, had some good seasons there, but just never got over that hump. Could never win a game in the playoffs. Could never really keep them as a perennial playoff team. What else? He also ended up getting hurt. If you remember, that one year when Carr was having an MVP season, he went down. He was never the same after that. Now, Prescott has played good after that injury, but he hasn't been able to win the big game. And you see Carr has went through the similar situation when he was with the Raiders. You see what happened to him. They brought in a new regime. They pushed Carr out. They brought in their guy. And Jerry Jones is a smart man, and I think he's like, you know what? They really didn't let Trey Lance play in Frisco because he got hurt, and he really didn't have much time out there. Purdy ended up taking his job, and all that, and Garoppolo was there when he got drafted, and injuries didn't help out Trey Lance, Garoppolo went down, Lance comes in, he goes down, Purdy takes the job. I'm saying that's how it worked out. Now, see, Al Davis, this is a page out of his book. Not the old crazy Al Davis, not the wacky weirdo Al Davis that didn't know what he was doing. The younger Al Davis, the smart football mind, the AFL commissioner, the old head coach, you know what I mean? And I think what Jerry Jones is doing is he's pulling a page out of Al Davis's book, right? He's just, okay, he's had Prescott there for a few years. Prescott can't get them over the hump. They've had loaded offense, loaded defense. They can't get there. Lance hasn't been able to play in Frisco. He's been hurt. He's fed up now because it's Purdy's job. He wants to start somewhere. So what better way for him to get an opportunity than go to Dallas? Because I think Dak Prescott's time there, his days are numbered. It's just I think the writing's on the wall. I think if Prescott comes out and he has some kind of pedestrian beginning to the season in his first 4 or 5 games, I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jones makes the call to have him benched for Trey Lance and get Trey Lance out there to get him some real playing time because he hasn't had much playing time. I think he's played. He started like 4 games or something like that, and he's like 2-2. The guy is young. He's got a good arm. He's mobile. He's a big quarterback, 6'4", 200 plus pounds. North Dakota State. You know what I mean? He's young. He's 23 years old. Prescott's already been in the league 8 years. It's just one of those things that I think it's time for Prescott to hit the bricks the way that the Raiders did with Carr. I think that's a coming with Prescott. And I think anybody that's a Cowboy fan can see it. Now, What I think when it comes down to the trade between both teams, obviously the 49ers lost out when they gave up those 3 high picks to be able to draft Lance, to move up and draft him, right, a couple years back. We know that. That's already water under the bridge. Lynch and Kyle Shanahan deserve credit, though, for owning up to the fucked up pick, to owning up to the way everything went down, to how it didn't work out, cutting their losses, getting rid of them. They get a 4th round pick. Now, I think that's very honorable of them, and I think that's how you should do business. I think the way the 49ers handle football business, I think every NFL team should follow that. You know what I mean? I think the way they do business is cut and dry, straightforward, blunt, and they just keep moving forward. They don't keep nothing dragging around. They get down to business. And on the other hand, so I commend Shanahan and Lynch for that. That's good work. They seen it didn't work out. They cut their losses. Hey, you guys want them, you guys take them. Now, on the other hand, you got Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones sees a young gun, ain't had a chance to play, needs some playing time. Trust me, he's not going to hesitate to yank Prescott if Prescott starts to look bad at the start of this season. If Prescott starts to look like the same old Dak Prescott, kind of takes, a little bit to get going, but, he's playing, he's got the numbers and all that in the first 3 or 4 games, but maybe they're 2-2 or they're 1-3 or they're 1-4 or 2-5 or something like that. I think that you're going to see Trey Lance come in. Now, God forbid Dak Prescott get hurt, because if he gets hurt, you're going to see Trey Lance a lot sooner. And I think it's a win-win situation for both teams when it comes to the trade. Because Trey Lance needs to go somewhere where he could possibly play. We already know Jerry Jones' style. He's just like the old school Al Davis. He won't hesitate to pull the trigger. He makes all the calls there. He calls all the shots. He's the boss. It don't matter if you got Mike McCarthy as the head coach. He's not going to be the one calling the shots. Everybody knows that Jerry Jones will call those shots. If he wants Lance to play, Lance will play, and it doesn't matter. So ain't nobody stopping that train. That's the Jerry Jones effect right there, a la Al Davis. So I see where Jones is coming with this, and I think, to be honest with you, the Cowboys are going to make out good with this guy. I think Mike McCarthy can utilize him, utilize all of his attributes, and utilize his strengths. This guy can move. He's got a strong arm. They should cater the offense to what he does best instead of trying to fit Lance into a certain offense. Find out what Lance does well, implement that into your offense. It's just kind of weird, though, that Shanahan wasn't able to really do that with him. But at the same time, Shanahan wasn't able to get a good look at Lance because he got hurt. And then Purdy did his thing, and then Purdy's the man now, so they're just going to cut their losses with Lance. But I think Lance is going to be a good quarterback in the league, and I think Jerry Jones is a smart man. Sometimes, he's operating in that old school Al Davis, but the old Al Davis, not just the old school, like when he was the smart AFL commissioner, head coach, the smart football mind, old school Al Davis, but the old school Al Davis, the old motherfucker at the end of the road that had lost his mind and was making a lot of dumb decisions, spending a lot of money on players that shouldn't be paid, making it real hard for the Raiders and their salary cap situation, and making it hard for them to move forward. But I think it's a similar situation, though. The way it's going to play out in Dallas is kind of like the way it played out with Carr. Very similar kind of careers going on. Injuries. There's another guy that they feel that might be better fit for that offense. They're kind of burnt out on Dak Prescott. I will tell you right now, man, it's crazy, but that's my take on it. You see Trey Lance has a leg injury. Dak Prescott has a leg injury. Carr had a leg injury. It's a very similar situation with Prescott and Carr. So I see a very similar outcome with Prescott as the similar thing that happened to Carr. I see the same thing playing out with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. And I see Trey Lance taking that job at some point sooner rather than later. And I think Trey Lance might be that guy that be able to move them into the future and get them where they want to be. Whereas, making the playoffs and making a little run here and there, because Dak Prescott wasn't that guy and isn't that guy. And I believe he needs to go to a weaker division. He needs to pull a Derek Carr, and he needs to go to a weak division like the NFC South, Stay in the NFC. Don't go to the AFC, because it's going to be hard for you to do anything out there with all the quarterbacks, that with Mahomes and with Herbert and with Allen and all these guys, Burrow. I mean, it's just loaded out in the AFC, and it's going to be hard to come out of there. So you just stay in the NFC. If they trade you somewhere or you sign with another team, go to a weak division, and then maybe you might be able to make a run here and there if you get a good defense and a good running game to help you out. But yeah, it's the era of Trey Lance has come to Dallas. Niners have cut ties with him, and I think Jerry Jones might have found him something. And that's my take on that. That's my reaction. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Oh, yeah.